Huh.
And turn this back on for a second, just so you get the idea of the whole flow of things. I'm up to the 320 grit, and I've just come up this side of the fret, and I'm just going to go back down on the other side. So 320 is only the second grit into this, but just to give you an idea how it looks in practice. So you can tell when you're cutting, you know, so usually after 2 or 3 you got to readjust the paper a little bit so you get a new edge to work on. So again, I'm pushing pretty much down on the fretboard so that I'm not rolling up over the top of that fret. All right, there's the 320. So now we're going to move to the 400. Can't tell what you're saying. I don't think I'm in. You're right. I think I'm in now. Okay. So just keep rotating the paper until you get to a good fresh surface. Anyway, I just thought I'd let it roll here so you can see that, you know, I don't do one fret at a time. That's another reason why I like to tape the board off. It takes a little extra time to do that, but I don't get the polish and paste on the board accidentally. I don't have to fiddle fart with that little shield. That drives me crazy. And I can just right up and down these frets through the grits and not have to be, like I said, just fiddling with that shield. I don't like that at all. So anyway, you set up, you do everything. You can obviously see I'm skipping the one I already did. And this piece of paper is pretty dead, so I'm good there. I'm going to grab a fresh piece for the edge. So just going to bump the edges of those. Normally you just go all the way up and down, but I'm missing that one I've already done. And your finger acts as a little pad basically, and it rolls around those edges. All right, so I got some meat left on that. I won't throw it away yet, but I'm going to get rid of all my 400 now. Throw it over in the done pile. 1,000 there, so 600. So I'm moving on to 600, and I'm going to be moving on to the 1,000. So I'm not going to bore you with all that, but I just wanted you to see the process as a whole. You know, yeah, if I were to just do one fret and get it all the way to polish and then move on and do one more fret and get it all the way to polish, it would take me 3 times as long to get this done. All right, I'm going to try to give you a view of these frets, and I have no idea from what I'm looking at how well you can tell what's going on here, but these things look like little pieces of jewelry, so pretty happy with the outcome here. And I'm just checking my watch, and I think I probably spent from start to finish, even with the interruptions here doing the video, probably somewhere right around an hour from the sand and frets all the way through the grits, and then doing the polish. And I did the polish by hand. Would have been like quicker with the Dremel, but just felt like doing it by hand today. So there you go. I think that's a pretty nice look. It's going to look really good when I pull the tape off, of course, and I'll bring you back then. Got a couple little spots on the board that I want to scrape, and then we'll treat the board, oil the board, and then I'll make a saddle and see if I can use the nut that I popped out previously. If not, I'll make a new nut. Okay, bring you back later. Okay, actually, I just pulled the tape off, and I just brought you right back in. The board looks really pretty amazing just as it is. There's a few spots where I've rolled up over the edge with the epoxy that I put here, and even glue when I was gluing this back in. So I'm just going to take a single-sided razor and just catch those little edges like that, and just make sure every little thing's cleaned up. Got a few spots, for instance, around this inlay that never really got sanded all the way out. All that stuff should pretty much even up when I oil the board. So actually things are looking really good. I spent some time yesterday working under the, here's one right here. I can see this with my eye, but once I get it oiled, you won't be able to see it. And there's just a little darker line right there where there's just a fuzz of super glue peeking out under that fret there. So I cleaned all that up yesterday pretty well, finding a white spot right here on this double marker one. So I'll address that before I oil it. So there's just a few things I want to just clean up, and like I said, make a saddle and string it up. So, and I will bring you back. All right, bringing you back in. I got so I've been dribbling medium viscosity super glue into the little divots. You remember I filled all the fret ends with rosewood dust and super glue, and I put the epoxy on the edge of the fingerboard extension. If you recall that, and I said that I was going to sand it when it was in place, because that way I could keep it square. So the way I do that is I use my sanding block, which is completely square, well, rectangular, but square to itself. A piece of paper. This happens to be 320, and then I can run the block on top of the guitar, right? So I got this nice perpendicular or square way to sand the edge of this fretboard. If you remember, I mentioned the epoxy had rounded off a bit, and rather than freehand that and just kind of guess at square, I'm going this route. I'm going to stick my head in the frame here to see what I'm doing. And then pull some more off of there. Anyway, once I get this pretty close to where I think I'm going, then I'll work my way to about 1,000 grit, and then I'll be able to buff that up. It's looking very good, just like that. So I'm going to start working my way through the grits. I've already done this side, and I'm going to turn you off again while I do that. All right. You know what? I honestly can't remember what the last thing I did on the video of this 78 Martin HD28. I've strung it up a couple times with the old strings on it, and this is the first time I put the new strings. So I've made a new saddle. I reamed all the pinholes so that they'd be the same heights, and then this A string popped up a little bit when I tightened it up. But all the holes are the same size now. At least all the pins ride evenly in the holes. I did not have to make a new nut. The old nut worked out just fine. Where else am I? I'm in the process of tuning it up a little bit here. Just put strings on it, so it's. checked this with the old strings, it said I was a fat 4/64 off the, that's what I'm reading now with my regular glasses on. Fat 4/64 on the fat E, and then right at 4/64 on the high E. And then just to check my radius, come across the board, and it looks like I've got a real good radius on it. The way I check, you know, nut action, it looks really good across the nut, which is the way I press it at the 3rd fret and then just see what kind of clearance I have up at the 1st fret. And as long as it's not laying on it, and I tell you, even if it was laying on it, if I wasn't getting a rattle open, I wouldn't worry about it. So I just put these strings on. I haven't tried to stretch them or anything at this point. Trying to remember. Okay, so neck reset and refret. I gotta tell you, I did remember I fretted this extension before I had it glued onto the guitar. I really should probably have just fretted up to, you know, like the 13th or something, and not fretted the extension until it was on the guitar, because it curled that extension, and even when I flattened it out and put the shim under the extension and all of that, I still had this little hump that happened right after it hit the body here. So on each side of the neck it had this goofy little hump right there, and I had to shave files, fiddle fart with files, had to file frets right. You know, these 2 frets were, I just kept going back and forth with the rocker, and I kept, you know, it worked it out, and it's fine now. At least it was before I restrung it. So we're all good there. I was right at 12 thousandths relief, and I told you when I first started this, I like to be around 10, but 12 is basically the industry standard. So I'm not going to try to change the frets on this thing to gain an extra, you know, thousandth or two on that relief, or, you know, lessen it a thousandth or two. It plays really well. This is actually a fuzz lighter set. This is a set of 11s. I picked up 11s for this guitar. I don't know if I hadn't measured the other ones. The other ones were 12s. So I should actually have a little less stress on the neck, which I didn't, technically I haven't actually measured it. So it was at 12 before. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a fuzz under 12 right now. But like I said, I hadn't measured that. But plays well. Stretching my string. And sounds really, you can tell it's out now. Sounds good. I will mention one other thing before I turn this off. This is basically the finish up on this guitar. I don't know if I can get in here close enough for you to see the neck joint, but you take a look at that joint, and there is, I mean, it is, if I do say so myself, it's perfection. All right, and then the height on that saddle, I mean, it's just right. It's right where it needs to be. Everything just worked out really well on this one. I'm very, very happy with it. Pinhole. This guitar, actually this guitar had come in with another customer previously, and I put a LR Baggs Lyric pickup in it, so it needed the pin jack. And the guy decided to sell the guitar, so he took the LR Baggs out of it, and sold the guitar. So the guy that bought the guitar decided that, well, he doesn't want a pickup in there anyway, but he wanted me to go ahead and do the reset and do the refret, and which is why the other guy didn't hang on to it. He didn't want to put the money into it. But I discovered that there are replacement jacks for these sorts of things, or excuse me, pins, strap pins. So StewMac has one, which is about $10, and it's in essence, it's a you can either get them in white, like Ivoroid, like the pins, or you can get them in ebony, and they have a little basically a shim. It's kind of like an anchor, like a concrete anchor. Goes in the hole. You put the pin in. You put a screw in from the inside. It swells that little anchor thing up, so it tightens it up in the hole. And the outside edge of the pin is a little bit bigger than the diameter of the hole, so it covers, if there's any, you get that little indent there from the washer on the pin, or you had a little ragged hole or something. It will kind of really clean that up. So I just got to find out from this customer if he wants a white one or an ebony one, and I'll get that ordered. I actually forgot to look it up until last night. So anyway, I'm winding this thing up. I'm going to go ahead and finish tuning it up, and well, that's it. 78 Martin refret, reset the neck, and this thing, this is something else I should mention. This thing, somewhere along the line, somebody had tried to, I don't know if they fixed a binding or if there was a dent or what happened, but apparently in the process they gooped a bunch of finish on top of the binding on the bottom edge of the side here, and then on the back as well. And they sealed over a bunch of grunge that was on the binding. So basically, I took a razor blade to it and I scraped it. And I scraped it down as far as I dared. There was some dents in the finish that never got straightened out from the extra finish that somebody put on. And then there was also a big buildup of finish back here, so I scraped both sides and the back right in here, and then I went through the grits and buffed it all out. The whole guitar was kind of grungy. Went ahead and cleaned it all up using all sorts of things, from naphtha or lighter fluid to this nano polish that I've talked about earlier in this series. Nano polish, I use it on the frets. It works great on plasticky finishes as well. I used swirl remover from StewMac, and I use their preservation polish, and cleaned up really nice. It looks really good. I don't know if I spent any time showing you this guitar. This is a really pretty rosewood back on this thing, back and sides. So anyway, it's done. Finish up. 78 Martin HD28. Sounds great. You guys, hey, thanks for watching. If you like this stuff, share it with your friends. Let them know that these are happening.